Stephen Curry is not playing in the 2026 NBA All-Star Game. Brandon Ingram is taking his spot. And while the internet has turned this into a massive controversy with fake quotes and manufactured drama, the actual story is way more straightforward and way less exciting than what you've probably been seeing in your social media feeds. But let's break down everything that happened here, why it matters, and why so many people are upset about a decision that honestly makes perfect sense when you look at the facts instead of the clickbait headlines. On February 10, 2026, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver officially announced that Brandon Ingram of the Toronto Raptors would replace Stephen Curry on the USA Stripes roster for the All-Star Game. The reason is simple. Curry has a knee injury that won't let him play. This isn't some dramatic snub or personal beef or controversial decision. This is a standard injury replacement that happens literally every single All-Star season. A player gets hurt, the commissioner picks someone to fill the roster spot, and the game goes on. That's it. But because this is Stephen Curry we're talking about, and because social media thrives on conflict and controversy, this routine announcement turned into a full-blown debate about who deserved the spot, whether the selection process is fair, and whether the entire All-Star Game should even be happening without one of the league's biggest stars. Let's start with the injury itself, because that's the actual reason any of this is happening. Stephen Curry is dealing with right patellofemoral pain syndrome, which is a fancy medical term for runner's knee. This is an overuse injury that causes pain around or behind the kneecap. It's not a torn ligament, it's not a meniscus issue. It's not the kind of catastrophic injury that ends seasons or careers, but it's painful, it's persistent, and it's the kind of thing that can get way worse if you try to push through it instead of letting it heal properly. For a player like Curry, whose entire game is built on constant movement, cutting, sprinting, and changing direction at full speed to create space for his shots, knee pain is a huge problem. He can't just play through it and hope it gets better. He has to let it heal. The timeline of how this injury developed tells you everything you need to know about why the Warriors are being so cautious. The knee issue first showed up about 2 weeks before early February, during what was supposed to be a routine individual workout. Nothing crazy, nothing high risk, just a normal practice session. Curry missed a game against the Minnesota Timberwolves on January 26th as a precaution. Then he came back and played 2 games where he scored 27 and 23 points, and everyone thought the worst was over. But on January 30th, during a home loss to the Detroit Pistons, Curry left the game in the third quarter. He was visibly limping, clearly in pain, and that was the moment everyone realized it's just a minor inconvenience that would go away on its own. Since that Pistons game, Curry has missed multiple games in a row. The Warriors got an MRI done, and the good news is that it didn't show any severe structural damage. No tears, no ligament issues, nothing that would require surgery. But the pain is still there. The inflammation is still there. And the Warriors' medical staff has made it very clear that if Curry comes back too early, there's a real risk of the knee flaring up again and causing even more problems. So the decision was made. Curry sits out the All-Star Game, uses the break as extended recovery time, and targets a return for the first game after the break on February 19th against the Boston Celtics. That gives him about 20 days of rest, rehab, and treatment to get the knee right. Curry himself talked about the frustration of dealing with this injury in comments reported by ESPN. He said it's a matter of learning as he goes what works rehab-wise, because the knee is still painful. He said they're trying to get rid of all the inflammation and pain, but it's something they still have to monitor and manage carefully. And he acknowledged that if he comes back too early, it could flare up again. That's an honest, mature assessment of the situation. Curry knows his body. He knows he's 37 years old. He knows the Warriors need him healthy for the playoffs, not for an exhibition game in February. So he's doing the smart thing and sitting out. Now let's talk about Brandon Ingram, because he's the guy who got the call to replace Curry, and his name has been at the center of all the controversy. Ingram is having a really solid season with the Toronto Raptors. He's averaging 22 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 3.7 assists per game. The Raptors are 32-22, sitting 5th in the Eastern Conference, and Ingram has been a huge part of their success. This is his second All-Star appearance. His first one was back in 2019-2020 during his first year with the New Orleans Pelicans. So this isn't some random guy getting thrown into the All-Star game for no reason. Ingram has been playing well, his team is winning, and he's earned recognition for what he's doing on the court. But here's where the debate starts. A lot of fans, especially on social media, immediately started arguing that Ingram wasn't the right choice. The name that kept coming up over and over again was Austin Reaves. People were saying that Reaves, who plays for the Lakers and has had a strong season, deserved the spot more than Ingram. They pointed to his stats, his team's performance, and the fact that he plays in the Western Conference just like Curry. The argument was that if you're replacing a Western Conference guard, you should pick another Western Conference guard, not someone from the East. And on the surface, that logic makes sense. But here's the thing. The 2026 All-Star format completely eliminates the East versus West structure.
This year's All-Star game is totally different from what we've seen in the past. Instead of East versus West, they're doing a round-robin mini-tournament with 3 teams, USA Stars, USA Stripes, and Team World. All the American-born players are divided between the 2 USA teams, and all the international players are on Team World. The teams play multiple 12-minute games throughout the night, and the top 2 teams advance to a championship final. It's a completely new format designed to make the game more competitive and interesting. And because of this format, the old rules about replacing players from the same conference don't apply anymore. Adam Silver had the flexibility to pick any American-born player from the eligible pool, regardless of what conference they play in. So picking Ingram, even though he plays in the East, was perfectly fine within the rules of this new format. But that explanation didn't stop people from being upset. The internet lit up with debates, arguments, and hot takes. People were posting on Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, and YouTube, arguing about whether Ingram deserved the spot, whether Reaves got snubbed, whether the entire selection process is broken. Some fans said they weren't even going to watch the All-Star game without Curry. Others said the whole event should be canceled. And in the middle of all this chaos, fake quotes started circulating. The most damaging one was a completely fabricated quote attributed to Stephen Curry, where he allegedly said the game should be canceled and directed a vulgar insult at Brandon Ingram. That quote spread like wildfire across social media, appearing in video thumbnails, tweets, and comment sections everywhere. But here's the truth. That quote is completely fake. Stephen Curry never said that. There's no credible source that reported it. It doesn't appear in any press conference transcript, any interview, any social media post from Curry's verified accounts, or any article from a legitimate journalist. It was entirely made up by content creators who wanted to generate clicks, views, and engagement by manufacturing drama where none actually exists. And unfortunately, a lot of people saw that fake quote and believed it was real without checking the source or doing any research. That's how misinformation spreads in 2026. Someone creates a sensational headline, throws it on a thumbnail, and thousands of people share it without ever verifying whether it's true. The reality is that Stephen Curry and Brandon Ingram have no beef. They have no history of conflict. They've never had any kind of public disagreement or on-court incident. In the 16 regular season games they've played against each other over their careers, Curry's teams have a 10-6 record. Curry averages 24.3 points, 6.7 assists, and 4.8 rebounds in those matchups. Ingram averages 18.4 points, 4.9 rebounds, and 3.9 assists. There's no rivalry here, there's no drama. They're just 2 professional basketball players who respect each other and happen to be in a situation where one is injured and the other is getting an opportunity. That's it. Brandon Ingram handled the whole situation with a lot of class. He acknowledged that he wasn't selected as an All-Star initially. He was a replacement. And instead of getting defensive or upset about that, he said he's motivated and inspired by it. He's treating it as fuel, as a reminder that he still has something to prove. That's the right attitude. He didn't ask for Curry to get injured. He didn't campaign for the spot. He just got the call from the commissioner and accepted the honor with the understanding that he earned it through his performance on the court this season. The Toronto Raptors organization and their fans are thrilled about this. The Raptors have been way better than anyone expected this season. They were supposed to be rebuilding, developing young talent, and fighting for a play-in spot at best. Instead, they're 5th in the Eastern Conference, with a legitimate shot at making a real playoff run. Ingram has been a huge part of that success. He gives them a go-to scorer who can create his own shot in isolation, attack closeouts, and finish through contact. He's exactly the kind of player a team needs in the playoffs, when the defense tightens up and you need someone who can get you a bucket in crunch time. So for the Raptors, this All-Star selection is validation that they're on the right track and that Ingram is a cornerstone piece of their future. But let's zoom out and talk about the bigger picture here, because the Ingram selection is just one small piece of a much larger conversation about the All-Star game itself. This year's format is a massive experiment.
The NBA looked at years and years of criticism about how boring and uncompetitive the All-Star game had become and decided to blow the whole thing up and start over. Instead of one game between East and West where nobody plays defense and the final score is 190 to 185, they're trying a round-robin tournament with shorter games, elimination stakes, and prize money to incentivize effort. The championship game winners get $125,000 each. Runners-up get $50,000. Third-place finishers get $25,000. The idea is that financial rewards plus shorter game lengths plus the pressure of elimination might actually make these guys try. The three rosters are absolutely stacked with talent. USA Stripes, the team Ingram is now on, includes LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Kawhi Leonard, and Norman Powell. That's a ridiculous amount of star power and championship experience. USA Stars has the younger core with Anthony Edwards, Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey, Devin Booker, Scotty Barnes, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Duren, and Jalen Johnson. That team is built on athleticism, speed, and highlight reel potential. And then there's Team World, which might actually be the most talented roster of the three. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, Karl Anthony Towns, Jamal Murray, Pascal Siakam, Deni Avdija, and Alperen Sengun. That's 3 MVPs, multiple All-NBA players, and the kind of size and skill that can dominate any style of play. Prediction markets are reflecting the strength of that Team World roster. As of early February, Team World had about a 57% probability to win the tournament. USA Stripes was at 37%, and USA Stars was at 35%. Betting odds had Team World as the favorite at plus 160, USA Stripes at plus 170, and USA Stars at plus 200. The logic makes sense. The international team has the deepest collection of two-way talent, guys who can score and defend at an elite level. And in a short 12-minute game format where one hot shooting stretch or one dominant defensive sequence can decide the outcome, having Jokic's passing, Giannis's rim pressure, and Wembanyama's shot blocking all on the same team is a scary proposition. The MVP market is heavily tilted toward Victor Wembanyama. He's listed at around plus 500 odds, with an implied probability of about 16 to 19%. And honestly, that makes perfect sense. Wembanyama is a content machine. Every game he plays produces viral highlights, chase-down blocks, deep three-pointers, above-the-rim finishes, things that look impossible for someone his size. In a format where standing out in a 12-minute window is the key to winning MVP, his combination of size, skill, and competitive fire gives him a massive advantage. Other contenders include Luka Doncic, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, and Kevin Durant, all of whom can go off for 20 points in 12 minutes if they get hot, but Wembanyama is the betting favorite for a reason. The big question, though, is whether any of this actually works. Will the new format produce competitive basketball? Will the players actually try? Or will this just be another version of the same problem with a different coat of paint? The NBA is betting that shorter games and elimination stakes will change player behavior. They're hoping that the pride of representing Team USA or Team World will create genuine motivation. They're counting on the fact that nobody wants to look bad on national television in front of millions of viewers. But history tells us that effort has always been the uncontrollable variable in all-star games. You can change the format, you can add prize money, you can create new incentives, but you can't force players to compete at full intensity if they don't want to. The absence of Stephen Curry definitely hurts the event. There's no getting around that. Curry is one of the biggest draws in basketball. He's must-watch television every time he steps on the court. His shooting ability, his off-ball movement, his ability to take over games in the blink of an eye, all of that makes him appointment viewing. Without him, the All-Star Game loses one of its marquee attractions. But from a basketball perspective, from the health perspective, from a long-term thinking perspective, sitting out is absolutely the right decision.
The Warriors need Curry healthy for the stretch run and the playoffs. They don't need him risking further injury in an exhibition game that doesn't count toward anything. Curry is 37 years old. He's already missed 15 games this season due to various ailments, illness, quad contusion, ankle soreness, and now this knee inflammation that's proven to be more stubborn than anyone expected. Every game he misses is a huge deal for the Warriors because without him on the floor, their offense completely changes. The spacing collapses, the defensive attention shifts to other players who aren't equipped to handle it. The entire system that the Warriors have built around Curry's gravity and movement falls apart. So giving him 20 days to rest, rehab, and get the knee right is the smart play. It's the responsible play, and honestly, it's the only play that makes sense if the Warriors want to have any chance of making noise in the postseason. As for the fake drama, the manufactured controversy, the made-up quotes and clickbait headlines, all of that says way more about the content economy we're living in than it does about Stephen Curry or Brandon Ingram. We're in an era where engagement is everything. Views, clicks, comments, shares, those are the metrics that determine success for content creators. And the easiest way to generate engagement is to create conflict, make people angry, make them pick sides, make them argue in the comment section. It doesn't matter if the conflict is real or not. It doesn't matter if the story is accurate. All that matters is whether it gets people clicking. That's exactly what happened here. Someone created a fake quote, attributed it to Stephen Curry, and threw it on a thumbnail with dramatic text and angry emojis. People saw it, believed it, shared it, and suddenly a routine injury replacement became a viral controversy. The truth is boring. The truth is that Curry has a knee injury, Ingram got selected as his replacement, and both guys are handling the situation like professionals. But boring doesn't get clicks. Boring doesn't go viral. So someone decided to spice it up with fiction, and now millions of people think there's beef between two players who have never had any kind of conflict. This is the reality of sports media in 2026. The line between legitimate journalism and engagement-driven content creation has completely blurred. You have to be really careful about what sources you trust, what headlines you believe, and what narratives you accept as fact. Always check the source, always look for verification. Always ask yourself whether the story you're reading or watching is backed up by credible reporting, or whether it's just designed to make you mad enough to click. So where does all of this leave us? Stephen Curry is sitting out the All-Star game to recover from a knee injury. Ingram is taking his spot and treating it as motivation to prove he belongs among the league's elite. The new All-Star format is a massive experiment that might revolutionize the event or might be another failed attempt to fix an unfixable problem. And the internet is doing what the internet always does, turning a straightforward situation into a dramatic controversy because drama generates more attention than reality. The All-Star Game tips off on Sunday, February 15th at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California. It's a completely new format with 3 teams, multiple games, elimination stakes, and prize money on the line. The rosters are loaded with some of the best players in the world. The potential for great basketball is there. The question is whether the players will actually compete with the intensity needed to make it memorable. We'll find out soon enough. But the real story isn't what happens on Sunday night. The real story is what happens when Stephen Curry comes back from this injury. The Warriors are fighting for playoff positioning in a brutally competitive Western Conference. They need their best player on the floor, healthy and playing at a high level. If Curry can use this 20-day break to get his knee right and come back strong for the final stretch of the season, then missing the All-Star game will have been worth it. If the knee continues to be a problem, if the pain doesn't go away, if he has to keep missing games, then the Warriors are in serious trouble. That's what actually matters. Not the All-Star game, not the fake drama, not the social media debates about who deserved the replacement spot. What matters is Stephen Curry's health and the Warriors' playoff hopes. Everything else is just noise. And in a world where noise is everywhere, where manufactured controversy drowns out actual substance, sometimes you have to step back and focus on what's real. Stephen Curry has a knee injury. Ingram got an opportunity. Both guys are handling it professionally, and the rest is just content.